Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabeth Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabeth Bachman.
Hello and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host, and this is the podcast where we interview experts from around the world on topics such as leadership, visibility, presentation skills, communication challenges. Now, if you're curious about how your presentation skills are helping you or maybe not helping you, you can go to our free 4-minute quiz at speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com. And that's where you can find out where your presentation skills are strong and where perhaps a little bit of support might help you get the results that will give you the recognition you need. My guest today is Michael Gunther, who of Collaboration Leadership, who is a leadership coach and one of my favorite people. His official bio, which is quite impressive, is that when his career began in operations as the youngest vice president running a $40 million division at 28 years old for SureGuard Capital Group, Collaboration's founder, Michael Gunther, soon realized he had a knack for identifying issues that were preventing growth within organizations. With an education in business administration and a master's in psychology, he possesses the right skills to address challenges in sales, management, finance, marketing, and operations. In his role as founder and managing partner at Collaboration, Michael works on building profitable, sustainable businesses along with his team using their scalable growth model methodology. That's one of the things that Michael specializes in, is helping businesses scale up. Over the last 18 years in California, he and his team have helped start over 300 businesses, assisted over 600 businesses to expand, and have trained over 4,300 leaders. He says, at Collaboration, we attract business owners who are driven towards a greater goal than where they are today, but they need a new perspective, heightened strategies, and they need expert guidance to accelerate their growth. We assist strong leaders as they make that shift from entrepreneur to leader of a thriving business. Michael currently serves as a Rotarian, a board member, a Dignity Health Foundation board, and president of the board of directors for the Golden Gate Business Association, the first lesbian, gay, bi, and transgender chapter in the world, which is celebrating 47 years this year. Collaboration is also a certified lesbian, gay, bi, trans enterprise. So Michael Gunther has so many wonderful things to say about how to collaborate and be a better leader. I had a wonderful time talking to him. Let's go to the interview. Michael Gunther, I'm so happy to have you as a guest on Speakers Who Get Results. Welcome.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for the invite. I've seen your promotions and these podcasts and videos all over social media, and I've always been impressed with them. And so I'm just thrilled to be here today with you.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to have you. I've watched you many times. So Michael, if you had a dream interview, who would you like to interview from history? What would you ask them? And who should be listening?
Great, Elizabeth. Andrew Carnegie would be an individual I would love to speak with. He was one of those barons of wealth during the turn of the 20th century, but he also believed in capitalism as capitalism was originally designed. And that was to take care of the investor, take care of your employees, and take care of your communities. And he donated much of his wealth to building healthy communities by building libraries around the globe, building hospitals around the globe. And he was known for giving back and taking care of his employees. And he hired Napoleon Hill to write Think and Grow Rich, of what it actually took to be successful. And so I would want to ask him, what was that drive? And what drove him to want to take care of others? Because I think true business leaders, it isn't just about yourself. It isn't just about making money as a business owner. True capitalism is taking care of your employees and your community. And I would want to learn about that. And how was he inspired? What were the challenges he was facing? Because not all of his contemporaries believed the same thing. And so it was really an interesting reading about him. And I'm always inspired when I go to any major city. You'll find one of the libraries he helped fund. You could find hospitals he helped get started. And I think any leader should learn from him. Any business owner should learn from him and want to listen to that interview and learning about what motivated him, why he thought it was important, and what true business success was.
That's really funny. I've had for many years in my opera days, I would do a residency at Carnegie Mellon. And at Carnegie Mellon, the emails all end with andrew.edu. So, it was Andrew Carnegie.
And Carnegie Hall and all those things. He just believed in giving back to the community, music, art, etc.
One of the things that was interesting when I was preparing for this interview was I got confused with Dale Carnegie and Andrew Carnegie, which a lot of people do. And Dale Carnegie, first, his original name was Carnegie, and he changed it to Carnegie so that he could backpack as a bootstrap and hitch his wagon to the fame of Andrew Carnegie.
Oh, very fascinating.
Although he didn't have that kind of money,
right.
But he was able to leverage the name, which, I don't know, you're a coach, you're a business coach as well as I am. Do you think that's cheating, or do you think that's just being clever?
I think it's a little cheating in my mind. You're basically not being authentic self. And I'm a big believer, as a leader, you got to be authentic. And to me, that's more of a marketing ploy than authentic leadership.
That's an interesting point. Dale Carnegie was the person who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. So that was Dale Carnegie, not Andrew Carnegie. They both made a big impression on society, but it was Andrew who had the money.
Yeah, and Dale ended up creating all the leadership training and sales training programs and
yeah. In the 1913 to 20, he was the person who invented adult education. So, or made it popular, let's put it that way. Yeah. So from what we've learned from Andrew Carnegie and Dale Carnegie about leadership, you speak a lot about leadership, which is why I really wanted to have you on this podcast. We're doing this as part of our Pride Month series. So we're recording this in June for a nod to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer community, which is full of many people who are really good at what they do and just happen to be gay or lesbian or whatever. I first met you through the Golden Gate Business Association, which is the Chamber of Commerce, San Francisco's Chamber of Commerce for the LGBTQ society. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've learned about leadership challenges as a gay man?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting because when I started off in my leadership roles, I wasn't out. And so I never felt was completely open and honest with folks. You always had this part of your life I wasn't sharing. I couldn't really get people to know what I did on the weekends. I said, I just hung out with friends. I never shared anything personal with what was going on. I also I remember distinctly there were times people were making comments about gay people, not positive comments. Or in my career, early in my career, having military serve openly in the military was being discussed in the 1990s, and people would make comments how they weren't open to that, or the AIDS epidemic, and they would talk about that. And so it kind of kept me in thinking, gosh, can I really be open about who I am?
Is it safe?
Is it
right?
safe? Yeah. Well, through my coming out process, I came out when I was 28. I said, if I'm going to come out, I got to be authentic at work. I just cannot be authentic at home and not be at work. I remember telling my boss, surprisingly, he came out to me. I had no idea that he was a family member. And
by family member, you mean another gay person, quote unquote, family member.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And so I had no idea. And then I told the president of the company, who was amazing, and he had me craft a non-discrimination policy for the company. At the time, there were some two of our employees were killed for being gay in Seattle at the time. And so there was a big issue with that, obviously, and our firm wanted to take a stand. They then began to offer healthcare benefits, and this was in the early 90s, to domestic partners, which was new. And so here I was, my first experience of coming out in a workplace, and the people I told were just so welcoming and open. And I said, gosh, I'll never go back. But what's so interesting, I think part of my entrepreneurial drive, after a corporate stint of about 8 years, I think my entrepreneurial drive was also because I was gay. I wanted to create an environment where I could be safe, I could be open, I didn't have to worry about what anyone else thought about it, and I just wanted to be open about it. And it's still to this day, though, it's like coming out every time you're meeting a new client. They see my wedding ring. My husband and I've been together 28 years, and and it's like, oh, what's your wife's name? And it's like, well, actually, my husband's name is this. And so it's always still there, but I would have it no other way than be out and open and authentic.
Well, certainly, I guess the rule is to be true to who you are. One of the things that I find people always ask me about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I do a lot of work with gender parity to helping women get equal chances. But I'm very aware that you're white, I'm white.
Yes.
We could check the diversity box in an application, but it's invisible.
Yes.
It's not as if we don't look different.
That's right.
And I'm very aware that many of my friends of color and my colleagues of color have a very different experience.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think if, and that's what allowed me even to keep it secret for all those times. I had nothing showing any diversity, right? And I think it's, I'm hoping that people see that we are being our authentic selves and being true to ourselves, that it opens up that they maybe shouldn't judge anybody because they don't know what someone's life is like or who they are, and that we shouldn't be making judgments upon anybody, no matter what their skin color or their sexual orientation, what have you.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if people actually lived up to that?
Yeah.
I have days where I wonder. So you do a lot of work with leaders in business.
That's correct.
Can you talk you talk a lot about collaborative leadership. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that so many leaders face when it comes to employee engagement?
Yes. Yeah, it's so fascinating to me. Gallup does their poll every year, about, workers' engagement, and it's made some slight improvements, but not much. I think it's still close to 7 out of 10 employees would go work for someone else for less money to have a better manager. And then you talk to managers, and they all think they're good managers or good leaders. And so there's a disconnect. And so I think
they do think, or they don't think?
No, most leaders, if you talk to most leaders or managers, they think they're good. They think they might have some areas to improve. But when you think the surveys keep coming back that 7 out of 10 employees would leave for less money to work for someone else, there's a disconnect in my mind.
Uh-huh.
And I think the disconnect is that most leaders don't truly understand, are they a good leader with their team or not? Do they have a true understanding what their employees think of them as a leader, and how effective are they in those areas? And so I think for leaders, it is about understanding, one, being open to the self-awareness. There are some leaders who don't want the feedback.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And it could be their own insecurity. And I talk to those leaders and I ask them about that. So what's your fear? And to me, it's kind of interesting. My fear of coming out was a fear of rejection. And I think the fear of some leaders is also showing some sides of them that aren't their strengths, or sharing their blind spots, or being vulnerable and sharing those things. And I often talk to them, well, how can you be authentic? No one's perfect. And the best leaders, those leaders understand their blind spots and they understand their strengths. And without that understanding and getting the feedback from your employees, how can you ever know how well you actually operate as a leader? We could see some output of outcomes between you and your team, but that doesn't mean you're a good leader, how you're getting those outcomes. There's a lot of variables of how those outcomes come to be. And so I think it's an openness to get feedback is, to me, one of the most critical things.
So how do I want to phrase this? How can someone be open enough to ask for support without showing themselves as being weak? This whole thing about it being dangerous to not be perfect is very much something that many women grow up with, and many of the female leaders that I work with have. You can't show that you're too vulnerable, or you really do lose people's respect. But if you show yourself as perfect, they don't like you either.
Right. So it's always a balance, right? Because you're dealing with people, right? And most people are going to look for something negative first in people versus positive. It's just how we are as human natures. But I can tell you this: think of any athlete. They're going to have coaches that have been training them and focusing. Michael Phelps, from the Olympic swimmer, he had 5 or 6 different coaches just focus on one area of his skill to get better. So how can we as leaders, we have to say, look, it's not about vulnerability. It's about becoming a better leader. And I need help. Stanford did a study, I want to say it was about, probably 10 years ago now. And they were talking about the need for coaching and development of leaders. And those that had it had a greater success in their career. And that companies that supported it were about 50-50. And so it was really interesting. If the culture isn't supporting it, then it's harder to be vulnerable. But I think it's no different than an athlete. And if you want to be the best leader, much like an athlete, if you want to be the best athlete, you're going to find people and surround yourself with coaches and knowledge and educational resources that are going to develop you to get better. And the best leaders know that they're not good at everything, but that they need to improve. If they truly want to improve, you got to share your vulnerabilities to be able to work on them and develop them.
Yeah. Also to have somebody, a trusted person at your side who can, or on your team, who can fill in the places where you're not so great. Which means you have to know where it is that you're not so great.
You bet. We do a lot of, in our work, we use tools like work traits or DISC or things like that, just to understand the blind spots and the dynamics of the team. And we work with leaders also to make sure that they balance out their personality. Because if you hire everyone like you, there's always going to be some gaps within the organization. I had an organization we're working with, and they had 7 leaders. of the team, and they had some real issues with retention.
Mhm.
And part of it is they were all the exact same personality. They're all black and white. The leader hired everyone like himself.
Because that's comfortable, right?
Yeah, and so they were missing all these other elements of communication and employee engagement because they assumed everyone viewed the world like they did. And so part of understanding it is also building your team around you. The best leaders I know, they know where their gaps are and they fill those gaps with team members or also supplementing their knowledge and coaching with that trusted person, of course.
Yeah. Well, and then the coach is someone who can help you see, be an outside eye, who doesn't, an outside eye who can be honest with you.
Can be honest and critical with you with love. You're being honest and critical because you truly want to see them get better. And you truly want to see them get to become a better leader. And so your intent with that feedback comes from a good spot. Okay? And so I think it's the best feedback you can get. And if a leader doesn't have that resource, they need to find it, whether it's in a peer group, whether it's hiring a coach, whether it's finding some type of resource to be able to get that honest feedback. Because that's the only way any of us are going to get better.
I know. I always think of it as you can't see the frame when you're inside the picture. Or you can't see the label if you're inside the bottle. So you need someone who can be outside eyes and give you that honest feedback. Is that where collaboration comes in? Because I know collaboration is a big theme of yours.
Yeah, it's interesting. I grew up with 10 brothers and 6 sisters. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm the youngest I'm the number 14.
Your poor mother.
I know, I'm the 14th out of 17. My mom had one set of twins, their last two, 16 and 17. But I learned early on about working with all kinds of personalities. One that's just to survive their household, but to thrive in that household. So I'm a big believer in bringing different personalities together and creating opportunities. Our organization, Collaboration Business Consulting, our focus is scaling organizations. We actually have a model that part of it's infrastructure we have to focus on, part of it is methodical growth, and then a big chunk is what we call collaborative leadership. And so we know all 3 of those areas need to be worked on to allow an organization to scale. And the true leadership is getting things done through others. And so if you have great leaders, but maybe the infrastructure isn't supporting it, or maybe the business development isn't supporting it properly. And so what are the structures, systems, and behaviors needed to grow? And so what we do is help focus organizations on assessing them and looking at those 3 core areas and finding out what's broken and how can we help implement those changes. It's so funny, I have my master's in psychology, my undergraduates in business. Aaron on my team, Maggie on my team, they all have backgrounds in psychology and business. We learned much of what we do. We can have all the perfect systems and strategy, but then it's trying to change the behaviors and attitudes and skills. And it's really a combo of the two for success. And so that's what we do. We have these amazing relationships with our clients and help build their management teams and build them as strong leaders. And build the entrepreneurs to get out of being an entrepreneur that's killing their business and become an entrepreneur of a thriving business. It's a different leadership style.
Well, the skills to run a scaled up company are different from the skills you need to run a startup.
You bet. In a startup, you're wearing every hat, you're doing everything. You might have a few support people. Every decision's going through you. And it's the hardest switch we see. As the organization has grown, they've added some management that if the leader doesn't shift their role and they're still trying to make every decision and be involved in every issue that comes up, they won't scale. And we will see they hit the ceiling of their growth. And they keep hitting this wall, or they'll grow and they'll come back to the ceiling that allows them to operate that way. It is the number one reason why clients move forward or not in scaling their business is the leadership and their teams changing of how they're managing.
And you have to be willing.
You have to be
and
willing.
The companies that are not willing to change.
Yes.
Let's talk just a little bit about the dark side. What do you see when they really don't want to change? When the real answer is to fire the CEO's brother because he's not a good CFO.
Right. Yeah. I think the reality is it gets back to what their mission and values are as an organization. If someone's not willing to change, then they will be able to live in a world of poor retention of good employees. They'll always be the bottleneck. They'll always have stress. They'll never feel like they're able to get out of their business. If they're not willing to make the choices, because if they don't fire that CFO who's a family member, they're not just impacting that person, they're impacting the whole organization. Because as a leader, you got to think, gosh, if we don't make that change, we're going to lose more people. That person isn't doing the job we need, so it's going to impact more people's lives than just that one person.
Well, that's actually a very interesting thought about how to separate yourself from the business.
Yes.
And be a business so that you can let go of hire people who are smarter than you are and let go of being able to know everything.
Well, it's so easy to state that, right? It is hard. I've experienced it myself. So, and yet we work with all our clients on the same thing. It is hard to let go because you've worked hard to build this reputation and this business. But they are never going to do it the way you expect them to do it. They're never going to do it the way exactly like you. If they did, they'd have their own business. The goal is to get them closer to that, and then also to teach you things. Like, I believe everyone you hire should be able to contribute and teach and change the organization and get you thinking differently. And so otherwise the organization won't grow. I think it's a choice you have to make. Stay with your lifestyle business or stay with all these headaches in your business and all these pains going on and lack of efficiency, or you want to become a growth business and you want to change yourself. And I think it's a choice people have to make. We did this study about 10 years ago, and I was really curious. We've worked with 500 plus organizations. I've worked with thousands of leaders, helped start over 300 organizations. I was going, why do some of the leaders we work with really excel and others don't? What are those things that make that happen? So we went and looked at personality styles and demographics and age groups, education, all that. But it boiled down to just a couple. It was really interesting. It boiled down to a couple of things. One, the ones that changed never blamed everyone. They always looked at themselves first. So they didn't say, oh, I had bad employees, or it's the market, or it's my competitors, or it's everyone else's fault. We discovered that the leaders had said, hey, I'm part of the issue here. And let me look at myself first. And then what can I do to make my team better? What can I do to be more competitive? And it's just a slight change, but it was really interesting. It was that attitude and where they focused on. So even when we get clients come to us, we get a lot of leads in every month and we interview them. They may not know we interviewed them, but we're trying to say, who are they blaming for where they are in their situation? And if they start going down that one path, we know they're probably not going to be a good fit for us. And we tell them that. And then we tell them why. And they can prove to us otherwise, but we kind of share with them, we're going to be authentic with them saying, hey, this is what we see as part of the issue, but you're part of the issue. And do you see that? Because if they don't, we know we're going to be the next person they're going to blame as to why it didn't work. Right. And so it's really interesting. If you listen, any of the folks listening today, if you're listening to someone who's blaming everybody else, blaming everything outside themselves, it might be a clue to you that are they really willing to understand that they're part of it and that they have to own and realize that they're part of the equation? And it's distinctly different when you see it. Like we just closed a project and the guy goes, I know it's me. I've been trying to get there and grow my business. And he goes, I know it's me. I have a great team, but I have to change. Well, God, what an attitude to work with, right?
Yeah.
Versus the opposite.
Right. Well, Michael Gunther, it has been such a delight to have you on Speakers Who Get Results. How do we find out more about your collaboration leadership training?
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. So we have a website, which is collaboration-llc.com. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn under the same name, Collaboration Business Consulting. We have free white papers. There are free videos. There's all kinds of resources on our resource center on our website. And, we just love helping leaders and organizations scale. And if you feel you're the right fit, we always like to have a conversation. So, and if we're not, we will also turn you on to folks that might be the better fit.
Thank you. I'm going to post all this. All of this will be in the show notes for this episode. How do you know when you're ready to scale?
Well, that's an interesting question. Most of our clients, most entrepreneurs, usually have a vision that they want to be a $5 million company or a $10 million company or a 1 million. One's a million's a big one for people to break, right? And so most of them have a vision that they want to do it. And often it shows up, so most people want to scale or grow. It usually, the pain point of whether they want to do it is going through the hard transition piece. Them transitioning, having to add staff, having to add infrastructure. And sometimes that pain of going through that, it's like a teenager who gets cocky and they've grown and their clothes don't quite fit. And it's, are they willing to go through that? Because sometimes I've seen people as they go through it, they're going, oh, this is too painful. It's too uncomfortable for me. And so that they may choose to have a lifestyle business too, which is great. There's nothing wrong with a lifestyle.
And what do you mean with a lifestyle business?
A lifestyle business, you've created a job for yourself, basically, and that you're making a great income. You might have a couple people helping you, but you're not looking to scale to become a company that can run without you. And that's a distinction. So, and
that's a legitimate choice.
It's a legitimate choice. And I think it's an important choice to make because a lot of people feel like they have to scale or they have to be a growth company. No, that's not true. There are so many successful entrepreneurs that are lifestyle and there are just as many who are growing and growth companies. And so I think it's a choice. I think it takes pressure off sometimes for business owners because they go, oh, I'm going to be a lifestyle. Doesn't mean you don't have employees. Doesn't mean you don't want to grow. But if you stepped away, the business basically would have a hard time maintaining. And so that's really but there's nothing wrong with it. You create wealth either way. You have great impact on people's lives either way. And I think people just making that choice, then they can determine do they want to scale or not scale.
That was a choice that I faced with the Tyrolean Opera program. My opera company we had gotten to the point where we either had to scale massively or let it go. And that was a hard thing for me. But I also knew that if I were to add 50% more staff and more people, I would have to spend 50% more time raising money.
Yes.
And I thought, I'm going to keep it manageable. But at the small size that we were, it wasn't really sustainable. And then fundamentally, the thing that decided it was I realized I was in danger of losing the ability to be moved by the music.
Oh, yes.
Because it had just become, it had become work. And I thought, I don't have to do this. By then I was training speakers too. So I was able to learn about things other than the same arias over and over. But I remember thinking hard about that. I wish I had known you then. because it would have conversation with you would have saved me a year or so of banging my head against the wall. I wish I'd known you then.
And Elizabeth, and I think that was a great decision. I always tell people it's a great decision whether you continue on with your organization or business. It's a great decision if you want to be a lifestyle business or a growth business. I think there's an assumption that you have to always be growth, and if you're not, it's not viable. And I also believe a great decision. We had a program we used to help people start businesses. We had half the people chose not to move forward with their business after going through the program, which was a huge success.
Yeah, saves you a lot of heartache and a lot of lost money. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I actually wasn't. That was a question that just popped into my head when I was about to say thank you and whatever. But I'm glad. I'm really glad I asked it. I've got about 3 pages of notes here, so I'm gonna.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth.
If you were to leave us with one thing, what's the one thing that someone should think about when they know the one thing that would make someone reach out to you to ask for a conversation? What would be the pain that you would solve first?
I think we would solve the pain of going it alone and trying to grow your business. And that you do need knowledge. We've been doing this, I've been doing this 25 plus years. And so it is much easier to have someone on your side helping you develop you and your team that's done it in multiple industries and have done it hundreds of times. Saves you time, energy, and we have your back.
Yeah. And boy, did I wish I had you at my back when I was trying to decide what to do with my opera company. I didn't know you that. Damn it. So, thank you so much, Michael. It's been an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
This has been Speakers Who Get Results with my guest, Michael Gunther. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host. And as a reminder, if you're curious how your presentation skills are helping you or not, you can take our free 4-minute assessment at speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com. And that's where you can find out where you are strong in presentation skills and where a little support might help you get better results and the recognition that you deserve. Thank you, Michael. It's been a delight.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
This has been Elizabeth Bachman. I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.